Admiral ZYXthar stood on the bridge of the flagship Dominance, his three eyes fixed on the tactical display showing the human fleet ahead. The Colonian Empire had conquered 47 star systems in the past century, each victory swift and decisive. The humans would be no different, or so he had believed. Status report, ZYXthar commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had never tasted defeat. Commander Velmoth approached, her scaled hide rippling with nervous energy. Sir, our preliminary scans show the human fleet consists of only 12 vessels. Our armada numbers 300. The admiral's mandibles clicked in what passed for laughter among his species. 12 ships? The intelligence reports suggested humans were a warrior race. This seems disappointing. What ZYXthar didn't know was that Captain Elena Vasquez, commanding the human flagship Perseverance, was having a very different conversation with her crew. Ma'am, reported Lieutenant Commander Chen, the Colonian fleet has assumed a standard offensive formation. They're broadcasting demands for our unconditional surrender. Captain Vasquez, a woman whose gray hair spoke of decades spent in the void between stars, studied the enemy formation with calculating eyes. Any response to our diplomatic channels? Negative. They've ignored every attempt at communication beyond their surrender demands. Vasquez nodded grimly. She had hoped it wouldn't come to this. Humans had a saying, war is diplomacy by other means. But when diplomacy failed completely, humans had developed other approaches that other species consistently underestimated. Signal the fleet, she ordered. Execute Protocol 7. Across the human formation, 11 other captains received the same message. Each ship began what appeared to be a retreat, their vessels turning away from the Colonian armada. On the Dominance, Velmoth practically vibrated with excitement. Admiral! The humans are fleeing. Our victory is impossible, ZYXthar interrupted, his tactical mind sensing something amiss. A species doesn't develop interstellar travel and survive first contact with hostile races by running from every fight. His eyes narrowed as he watched the human ship's movements. There's something we're missing. The human vessels weren't retreating, they were repositioning. Captain Vasquez knew that the Colonians, like most aggressive species they'd encountered, thought in terms of direct confrontation. They expected battles to be decided by superior numbers and firepower in head-to-head engagements. Humans had learned better. Commence Phase 1, Vasquez ordered quietly. The 12 human ships suddenly scattered in seemingly random directions, each following trajectories that appeared to make no tactical sense. The Colonian fleet, trained in conventional warfare, began to pursue, dividing their forces to chase down the fleeing humans. It was exactly what Captain Vasquez had hoped for. Phase 2, she transmitted to her fleet. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations to come. The scattered human ships, rather than continuing to flee, began to converge on predetermined coordinates. But they weren't targeting the Colonian ships directly, they were targeting empty space. Admiral ZYXthar watched in confusion as the humans seemed to be firing at nothing. What are they doing? He demanded. His answer came in the form of explosions that seemed to bloom from empty space itself. The humans had spent the past 3 months seeding the system with cloaked mines, not around planets or strategic locations, but along the most logical pursuit routes for an attacking fleet. Routes that an aggressive species would naturally follow when chasing what appeared to be retreating prey. The Colonian formation, spread thin in pursuit, found itself sailing into carefully laid traps. But even as explosions began to cripple his outer vessels, ZYXthar realized this wasn't the real threat. The minefields were causing damage, but not enough to stop his armada. The real revelation came when the human ships, having triggered their traps, suddenly turned and began broadcasting on all frequencies, not to the Colonian fleet, but to something else entirely. This is Captain Vasquez to all resistance cells, her voice carried across space. The Empire has committed to this system. Execute Uprising Protocol. Across 17 Colonian-occupied worlds, carefully coordinated resistance movements that had been planning for months suddenly struck simultaneously. Not randomly, but with surgical precision against infrastructure, supply lines, and communication networks. The humans hadn't just prepared to fight the Colonian fleet, they had spent years organizing and supplying every oppressed population the Empire had conquered. Admiral ZYXThar's tactical display suddenly lit up with reports of rebellion on world after world. His supply lines were cut. His communication networks were compromised. His reinforcements were tied up dealing with uprising after uprising. But the humans still weren't done. Phase 3, Captain Vasquez announced. The 12 human ships, no longer fleeing or hiding, regrouped and began broadcasting something that made every Colonian in the fleet freeze in recognition: the tactical frequencies and command codes of their own navy. Somehow, the humans had not only infiltrated Colonian communications, but had spent months learning their tactical doctrine, their command structure, and their operational procedures. False orders began flooding Colonian channels. Units were commanded to retreat to defend their home worlds. Others were told to investigate phantom threats. The carefully coordinated Colonian battle formation began to dissolve as confusion spread through their ranks. Admiral ZYXThar finally understood what was happening. The humans hadn't come to fight a battle, they had come to end a war. Not through superior firepower or numbers, but through the systematic dismantling of everything that made the Colonian Empire function. "Sir," Velmoth reported, her voice shaking, "we're receiving reports of coordinated attacks on our shipyards, our communication relays, our administrative centers. It's happening everywhere, all at once." Captain Vasquez opened a direct channel to the Colonian flagship. When Admiral ZYXThar's image appeared on her screen, she spoke with the calm authority of someone who had already won. "Admiral, this is Captain Vasquez. You came here expecting a battle, but humans don't fight wars, we end them. Your empire's ability to wage war no longer exists. You can surrender now and help us establish a peaceful transition, or you can watch everything you built crumble while you drift helplessly in space. The choice is yours." ZYXThar looked at his tactical display, at the reports flooding in from across his empire, at the human ships that had somehow orchestrated the complete dismantling of Colonian military capability without firing a single shot at his fleet. For the first time in his military career, Admiral ZYXThar understood that he had encountered something entirely outside his experience, a species that viewed war not as conquest, but as a problem to be solved permanently. He reached for his communications console to signal surrender, finally comprehending the truth that would reshape the galaxy: humans didn't fight wars to win battles. They fought wars to ensure they would never have to fight them again.